Sorry. All right. This is part 2. Images with disturbing backstories. I need a new chair or something because where I sit, no more padding exists. It's not uncomfortable, but it's not a whole lot of pad. All right, so this is part 2. I think I already said that, of images with disturbing backstories. That one, the mother sold the children, and then Adam Walsh, which is a sad one. But as I was talking about with John Walsh, just kind of being able to turn tragedy into, and he's 74 too. So I think 74, 75, 76, 71, 77. He's in his 70s, and to be able to take tragedy and to turn it into some kind of spark that makes you want to never allow other families to go through what you went through, I think is commendable. I was going over here to start it. It is not there. We're going to start right here.
Our next image shows a woman crouching on the moors, holding her pet dog closely. At first glance, it appears to be just a casual photograph. Maybe she's resting during a hike or marking a spot of interest. But where was this image taken, and what significance does this location hold? This seemingly ordinary picture was taken on the Saddleworth Moors in England, a place known for its desolate beauty and stark landscapes. The woman in the image is Myra Hindley, a name that might not ring any bells immediately, but one that is tied to a much darker chapter in history. So, what is the real story behind this image? Myra Hindley was born on July 23, 1942, in Crumpsall, a suburb of Manchester. Her early life was marked by a troubled childhood, with a strict and sometimes abusive father. She was known to be a bright student, but her life took a dark turn when she met Ian Brady in 1961. Hindley was instantly drawn by Brady's charisma and his radical antisocial ideas. Ian Brady, originally named Ian Duncan Stewart, was born on January 2, 1938 in Glasgow. He also had a difficult upbringing, surrounded by poverty and instability. His fascination with Nazi ideology and sadistic literature made him the monster he grew up to be. When Brady moved to Manchester in the late 1950s, his path eventually crossed with Hindley's, and together, they became a deadly duo. The pair worked together at Millwoods Merchandising, where their relationship quickly escalated from casual colleagues to something far more sinister. Brady introduced Hindley to his twisted worldview, and she, falling in love with Brady, soon adopted his way of thinking. They began to plan and execute a series of perfect kidnappings and murders that would shock the nation. They targeted vulnerable young victims, often children, whom they would lure with promises of rides or help with chores. Hindley would often act as the bait to gain the trust of their unsuspecting victims, and Brady would then overpower the victims, leading them to isolated locations on the moors where they were subjected to unimaginable horrors. The attacks took place between July 1963 and October 1965, with the victims ranging in age from 10 to 17. Each crime was marked by brutality, with Brady and Hindley photographing their victims and recording their final moments of terror. Their reign of terror continued for 2 years until they were finally apprehended in 1965. The capture came after David Smith, Hindley's brother-in-law, witnessed Brady attacking a young man named Edward Evans. Horrified, Smith reported the incident to the police, leading to the arrest of Brady and Hindley. These two individuals, with their dark pasts and even darker deeds, became the faces of evil in the United Kingdom. Their crimes forever marked British history, now remembered as the Moors murders. So, what significance does this image have? Initially, the images appeared to be simple snapshots taken during a day out. However, the true significance became apparent when the police compared the photos with the landscape. They realized that these were not just random locations, but specific spots where the victims were buried. And in this particular image, she's crouching and staring directly down to the ground at one of her victims. The discovery of these burial sites was both a breakthrough and a tragedy. On October 10th, 1965, the police found the body of John Kilbride buried in a shallow grave, right where Hindley was crouching in that photograph. Following this discovery, the police continued their search and, in July 1987, found the body of Pauline Reed. This was over 2 decades after her murder, and the identification of her remains was made possible by the detailed analysis of the photographs taken by Hindley. A 14-day trial began on April 19, 1966. As the death penalty for murder had been abolished 6 months earlier, the judge passed the only sentence the law now allowed: life imprisonment. Brady was sentenced to 3 concurrent life sentences, and Hindley was given 2. In 1989, Brady also confessed to taking the lives of 2 other people, but was never tried for his crimes. He passed away in 2017, aged 79. Hindley, now referred to as the most evil woman in Britain, passed away in prison in 2002, at the age of 60. The Moors murders are an awful story, but even so many years after the attacks, Brady and Hindley both refused and ignored any appeals by police and family members of victim Keith Bennett to find out where his body had been buried, and unfortunately, finding a body without any information is near impossible. John Ainley, the solicitor of Winnie Johnson, Bennett's mother, stated, "I live on the edge of Saddleworth Moor, and unless you have definite information, it is a needle in a haystack." The bodies of their victims, Pauline Reed, 16, John Kilbride, 12, Leslie Ann Downey, 10, and Edward Evans, 17, were found. However, they weren't able to locate Keith Bennett's body. Winnie Johnson, Keith's mother, passed away in August of 2012, never finding out where her son had been buried, and never being given the closure she deserved. To this day, his body has never been found.
It hurts the family, but you got to take some closure and I guess some solace in knowing that, yeah, he was killed. You'll never be able to get the body, but you know that he's in a better place, kind of thing. That's the only real thing you can kind of hang your hat on. But yeah, it's too bad.
Our final image goes into the story of John Edward Robinson, a seemingly innocent man who is anything but. Seen wearing a yellow sweater in this image and holding a baby, this might seem like a heartwarming family photo at first. But the truth behind the photo is nothing short of horrific.
I think I know this one.
John Edward Robinson was born on December 27th, 1943.
There I am! Please don't say he's from Peoria.
In Cicero, Illinois. Early on, he showed signs of trouble, frequently getting into legal issues. Despite these early red flags, he managed to present himself as an ordinary guy, which later helped him commit some truly horrific crimes. In the 1980s, Robinson's criminal activities took off. He got involved in various scams, including embezzlement and forgery, posing as a successful businessman. This charm and deceit allowed him to manipulate those around him, hiding his darker side. By the late 1980s, his crimes took a more sinister turn. Robinson started targeting vulnerable women, offering them jobs or financial help. Once he gained their trust, he would exploit and then dispose of them, creating a web of lies to cover up their disappearances. His ability to blend in and his careful planning made him a particularly dangerous predator. One of his most infamous crimes involved Lisa Stasi, a young woman going through tough times. Lisa Stasi was a young mother struggling to find stability. At just 19 years old, she had a baby daughter, Tiffany, and was trying to make a fresh start after leaving a troubled marriage. Desperate for help, she crossed paths with John Edward Robinson in early 1985. He promised her a job, an apartment, and a new beginning, exactly what Lisa needed to get back on her feet. She was hopeful and trusted Robinson, unaware of the danger she was stepping into. On January 8, 1985, Lisa and Tiffany checked into a motel room in Overland Park, Kansas, arranged by Robinson. He told Lisa that the job and apartment would be finalized the next day. That night, Lisa called her family, excited about the new opportunities. Sadly, this would be the last time they ever heard from her. The next day, Robinson lured Lisa to a different location under the pretense of signing paperwork for her new job. Once there, he convinced her to sign several blank sheets of paper. These sheets would later become forged letters, falsely claiming that Lisa had decided to leave Tiffany in Robinson's care and disappear. After obtaining her signature, Robinson took her life. The exact details of her death remain unclear, but it's believed that he strangled her. Robinson then disposed of Lisa's body, which has never been found. Here, the story takes another darker turn. A few days later, Robinson contacted his brother and sister-in-law, who were wanting a child but were unable to adopt a baby through traditional means. Robinson contacted them, informing them that he knew of a baby whose mother had taken her own life. He told them for a price of $5,500 in legal fees, they could have the baby, using Lisa's signature and a set of authentic appearing adoption papers with 2 forged signatures of 2 lawyers and a judge. They believed him. Robinson's brother and sister-in-law adopted Tiffany, renaming her Heather. They had no idea about the dark truth behind her arrival. They raised Heather with love and care, never suspecting the horrific events that had led her to them. This image you see of Robinson holding Tiffany, surrounded by his family with everyone smiling, was taken mere days after Robinson had brutally taken the life of Lisa Stasi and separated Tiffany from her mother. It's incredibly shocking to just see the smile across his face, knowing fully well what he did to Lisa and Tiffany just days before. As Heather grew up, she lived a normal life with her adoptive family. They provided her with all the love she needed, completely unaware they were raising the daughter of someone Robinson had attacked. The truth of her real identity would come much later, turning their world upside down. In the year 2000, at the age of 15 years old, Heather would learn that the man she grew up to know as her uncle was actually a serial killer who had taken the lives of countless women, including her own biological mother. In 2002, Robinson stood trial in Kansas for multiple deaths and was convicted on all counts. Robinson received the death penalty for 2 of the attacks and life imprisonment for the death of Lisa Stasi. He currently remains on death row at the El Dorado Corrections Facility in Kansas. It's an incredibly twisted story, and what makes it even more disturbing is that Robinson believed taking the life of an innocent woman just to give the baby to his brother and sister-in-law was somehow justifiable. In the end, he not only destroyed their lives, but the lives of others Robinson had taken, as well as the families and friends of those who knew them. I'm glad Heather managed to find some form of closure in the end, as she now knows the truth behind who her biological mother is. But it is such a tragedy what became of her through the actions of an evil and twisted man.
I've heard this story, and I also believe that she harbors no ill will against his brother or whatever, the people who raised her, because they were duped into believing it, but they treated her with nothing but love. So I think she knows who her biological mom is, but I think she still calls them her parents because they raised her. That's all she knows. And of course, they have to feel terrible because their child that they adopted, the brother killed him. And I believe there's more to that guy. He was a serial killer, but I believe I saw heard a podcast about him. Yeah, he was just a terrible human being. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and end this here. Hope you enjoyed learning about some terrible things, but you understand what I'm saying. Until next time, have a good day, have a good night.